you, the Nancy Drews out here in these fandoms trying to figure stuff out because there is very little clarity. What about those man hours? I mean, they deserve a statement. Hi, I'm Doria.
I'm Alex, and today we are here to talk about GOT7 and their recent leaving of JYPE Entertainment and the future of their career. And basically we wanted to use this as an opportunity to talk about the way that Kpop has been doing disbandments lately and how we feel about that, because we have some thoughts and some feelings to get across.
Basically, we thought it was important to just even talk about this because first of all, we wanted to start doing more talking videos because we have a lot of opinions. We've been fans of the K-pop industry for years now. It's gonna be 8 years this year, which is insane. And so we've seen a lot, and we've thought a lot, discussed a lot amongst ourselves and friends and fellow stans, and have a lot of opinions. So we thought that we'd start putting them on the channel because we've had this channel for years and they've never really like sat down and had discussions about things. So since this is so recent and we're huge fans of GOT7 and they've been an important part of our channel, we were at the last concert that we went to of theirs, is our profile picture.
Yes.
We had a wonderful time, and they always give us such a great show, so we thought to honor the end of this era, at least, no matter what happens moving forward, this is the end of an era, and to commemorate it and to kind of just like discuss it, we thought it'd be respectful to do this.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we've seen them live 4 times. We've been stans almost since debut. We watched Girls, Girls, Girls at the time, and we were like, okay, that's cute, but we started to stan with an A era,
yes.
So that's our sort of history with them. And as you all know, so recently after their contract expired, well, actually hasn't fully expired yet, but as their contract is expiring, GOT7 got into discussions with JYPE Entertainment about renewing their contract, and didn't seem to go too well because they all decided to walk. So initially when this was announced, it was a lot of like rumors, it was a lot of who's talking to what label, it was a lot of sort of not a lot of clarity for us in terms of what was happening.
Right.
And suddenly it was announced that they were all leaving, they all posted GOT7 FOREVER, and so far we don't have concrete ideas to what they are actually doing next. We know that they seemingly intend to do more stuff as a group at a certain point. Under what label, we're not sure at this point, and that they all have different sort of labels or companies that have approached them for new contracts. So that's all we know really factually at this point about it.
Yeah. We also know that some of them are more concrete than others, I think. Like Jin Young, I don't think is not going to go to the BH label.
True, but he hasn't actually announced his signing of a contract.
Well, no, but I guess I would say what we know concretely is Jackson's already established himself with his own label. So concretely, he's not doing anything else. We know for a fact that he's most likely going to be. Well, we know for a fact he's actually been sharing it on social media that he's working on an album right now.
That is true.
Pedal to the metal. Burning that midnight oil. Literally went to bed at like 6 a.m. So we know that concretely he's putting his efforts into that. And we know concretely that Mark is most likely not signing somewhere in Korea. It seems he's going back home to LA to be with his family. His dad had this adorable anyway, his dad's the best. But and he's saying that he will start a YouTube channel. He already physically has started it and has like
way more subscribers than we do.
Right? Clout, you know. But so he, you know, that's definitely like concrete for him. It started already, right?
Yeah, that's true.
So, and then I think the only closest thing we have is Yugi joining AOMG, which is a big, petty to JYPE, the person, because if anybody doesn't know, I'll just briefly mention that the group 2 PM, which are the Big Brother group to GOT7 on JYPE, they originally had 7 members, and their leader was Jay Park, who is a rap R&B artist and the CEO and starter of AOMG, and he was briefly in 2 PM and then was swiftly expound based on a lot of messy things, but over the years, he has, you know, made it kind of a thing to say that JYP and him didn't get along because JYP has a ego problem with, especially with his male, because he's male and he views that to be a direct conflict, a direct competition. He doesn't want them to get bigger than him because he always has his own career that he's had for decades. We suspect, a lot of us have suspected that has to do with GOT7 as well as his mistreatment, which we'll get into. So Yu deciding to go to the exact label of the person that kind of called out JYP publicly the most is very petty, and I'm very proud of his Scorpio ass. I appreciate that because he did not, we'll get into it more, but I think personally he's one of the most unfulfilled in the group, and I want him to do what he wants, so I'm happy for that, for sure.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So we wanted to initially compare this sort of situation and what happened with GOT7 to other groups, because back when we got into K-pop, it was kind of the thing where once you disbanded, or you didn't disband. It was very clear at the end of your contract whether you were staying together or not staying together.
Yes.
But in recent years, it's gotten a bit more confusing.
And muddy.
So
yeah.
I'd categorize this in 3 different groups.
Mm-hmm.
First, you have groups like Girls' Generation or 2PM, where some members leave the label.
Right, at the end of the contract.
I would say maybe VIX is like this as well. It seems,
yes.
as far as we know.
As far as we know, yeah.
So some of the members leave the label, but there is still a promise that the whole group will come together to have comebacks under the initial label, and that will be happening as normal.
So they'll have autonomy outside of it, but they won't necessarily have to lose the brand or each other. The label doesn't lose the brand.
Exactly.
And you know, everyone
and the fans get
happy.
to be like happy about it.
Yeah.
However, my problem with this, even though we now have gotten announcements that 2PM will be coming back this year, which I'm not mad about it because they were doing it because they were in the military. I just had concerns because Girls' Generation announced this in 2017, I think.
Yeah, they disbanded then, I think. Or
yeah.
not disbanded, sorry. Members left.
Well, their last comeback, it was in 2016.
Yeah, 2016.
With their, anniversary album. Or 2017? Wait, let me look it up quickly so I can,
Was it 20 years? Did they debut 2007? That would be 20.
Yes, that would be 10.
Sorry, 10. 20. What the...
Yes, 2017. Okay. So yeah, Girls' Generation, 3 of the members left the group in 2017 after their last album.
Left the label.
And, left the label in 2017 after their last album, and then they said, okay, we will get back together at some point as a whole group. Well, it is now 2021.
They are not men, therefore they do not enlist. There's no real reason why that hasn't happened.
It hasn't happened. I mean, there are certain logistical reasons over the last year why it wouldn't happen,
yes, I wasn't necessarily expecting.
Although it seems that Tiffany, during the pandemic, has primarily been in Korea, so she was the one who was abroad. So
right, she was the one that would have to come back.
Everybody has been in Korea, so kind of this would have been the ideal
with each other.
time. Yeah, and that's the thing. I appreciate as a fan of Girls' Generation that they often get together and post pictures of them at different events, like birthdays or just on the anniversary of their debut.
They all did
like
Hyo's
that.
dessert dance.
Yeah,
which was adorable.
So that's always great. But even on the level of the members who were left in Girls' Generation, all we got was OGG, which was not bad, but all we got was 2 songs that weren't even promoted. They just got a music video, and that was it.
They never did a live performance even, at all.
Never. So it just feels like when groups use this excuse as a way of disbanding, it almost feels like a lie. Oh, we're still together, and everybody's just there when are you going to be together?
So when?
Because we'll talk about this more later, but one of the aspects that people like about a group is the group being together, doing activities as a group.
Right.
But we'll get into that a bit more later. So the second group of disbandments would be groups like Beast and Shinhwa, where they left their label and stayed together.
Yeah.
I mean, other than the way that Hyunseung left Beast, but otherwise the rest of them left.
He left when they were Beast, and
yeah,
then
they all
stayed on
left.
the label, and then they left the label. So he wasn't a part of them anymore. It wasn't. He stayed very much on the label. They all left.
Yeah.
It even had to change their name to highlight because, it was that level of nonsense, which is still annoying to me. That's their name, but whatever.
Yes. But yes, so that's the second kind of group, and I think that goes pretty well for the fans because you still get the group even if the label has changed.
And a mentally happier group. And Shinhwa have not slowed down at all.
No.
managed to stay exactly the same lineup through all of this. Like, they've been together for what now? 25 years? 20 more?
Almost 25, I think.
Yeah.
Next year, I think.
Yeah, so I mean, it's worked for them. I'm very happy for that. And that's kind of the ideal for, like...
Yeah, that's what every group, I think that's what every fandom sort of looks to as the possibility when they hate either the label that their group is under, or just overall want a sort of change in direction for the group, you know? Because, you know, you can get that in a good situation as well, like Super Junior, where they're still under SM, but they have their own label under it, so they have sort of complete creative control over what's going forward with them.
And their schedules.
Yes. And then the last type of group would be a group like B1A4, M Black, CN Blue, where not all of the members have stayed. Well, CN Blue's kind of different because, you know, one of them left the label due to a scandal. But the other groups, it's more of a situation where some of them left when the contract had to be renewed, and the group continued on under the label with the remaining members.
Right. So now, having distinguished those three different, you know, types of situations, what's frustrating for us, especially with GOT7 specifically, but in general, it's that there's been a complete lack of clarity as to what each group is going to be like. We're basing all of our assumptions on what's been happening, but all of these groups have basically promised similar things. Nothing's gonna change, we're staying together, we're still who you think we are, and what you've come to love. Not true. Actively, I would have, you know, I would prefer we discussed this, like a sister type of situation where we all ended, they decided that if everyone wasn't going to stay, they were going to disband. That is what it was, and it was clear. They had a week of promotions where they did an amazing goodbye. I loved their goodbye song. It was emotional, and it was final, and not final in terms of we can never reunite, but finals and this is the end of this for us right now. We're all prioritizing other things for ourselves right now. With JYPE, and with GOT7 specifically right now, all we know for sure is everybody has left the label. There's rumors about why that is, but for the most part, as a fandom, we all know they've been mistreated for a long time, so they're gone. But we don't know for sure if they'll ever reunite and under what label. Jackson has his own label, so it would be the least messy for them to go under his, but that's specifically for Chinese distribution. He has never been on a Korean music show, and most of them are Korean, and the group as themselves are based in Korea. So what kind of Korean representation are they looking at? Now mind you, it's been a little bit. I'm not blaming them for not having a plan yet, but it gets kind of nerve-wracking when they say we're still going to be the same. No. Even though JYPE refused to use most of its resources to help their reach, it's still a specific big label reach that it has, which has enabled them to be a lot of what they were. So how has that changed moving forward with less connections, less reach, and less resources? And what does that mean in terms of availability for records, for concerts? We've gotten so used to them coming directly to our doorstep in a full-scale concert at Air Canada Centre here in Toronto.
Are they still going to be able to do that?
Are they going to be able to do that without pull? Without all the pull? I hope they do. I think they've all been, as much as they possibly can, with a big bully that has been over their shoulder every 2 seconds, have made as many connections as they possibly can. But can they show up to a KCON again? What's their relationship specifically with Mnet? What label would they use it under? Do they have to be a label? I know it's a lot easier to be independent in the American music system than it is in Korea. So, I mean, from previous JYP artists who have kind of all gone more independent, you don't see them even on music shows that much. That's concerning to me. You don't see Hatfelt previously in Wonder Girls all over the place, even though she's made music. You don't see Jinwoo all over the place, even though he had to come back. Why were we not on music shows?
Yeah, that's true.
Maybe they weren't interested in it.
I do see Yubin still on them, but...
Yubin and Sunmi... No, she left.
No, yeah.
Yubin and she stayed a little bit longer than left.
Yeah.
Sunmi and Yubin though are hopeful examples where they are here and they exist and they tour and they, yeah, especially Sunmi. She's immensely popular and successful. Kudos to her, so she has that reach.
Same with somebody like Rain, who has created his own whole empire.
Well, Rain is also one who loves to start a label, can't maintain it.
True, but he has still maintained public appearances and mainstream success.
Whenever he comes back, he comes back.
Yeah, so whether we agree with all of his choices or not, he's still making them in a way that is visible to the public.
Right.
But I don't know if they were on that level of, like, he was the idol.
Right, the lack of autonomy, I'm viewing it, I view it to be JYP personally shooting them each in the foot for not allowing them to create more of a presence on their own.
That's
so
true.
what are their connections? They're not little babies. I'm sure they've networked, but we have no idea concretely what they could even accomplish right now. And that's frustrating because of the level of caliber they are at a group. That shouldn't be a problem. That shouldn't be a question.
Yeah, and I think another thing about this whole situation that wasn't as relevant to GOT7, but it felt like that as the negotiations were going on, was it's a lot of speculation from fans, a lot of lack of clarity from the label. And we see this in all kinds of situations nowadays in K-pop, where, say, an idol will be injured, and then they're just suddenly gone for
A year.
an unlimited amount of time sometimes. Or they'll be gone due to mental health reasons, or due to other personal reasons. And there's no real, like, I mean, obviously in those kinds of situations you're not going to know exactly when they're coming back, but I feel like often with labels there's a lack of transparency. And you see this a lot actually with girl groups in terms of at a certain point they just kind of stop promoting them or
fall off.
have very minimal promotions, and then the label just doesn't say anything. And we're just like, are they still alive? And then sometimes you get a disbandment announcement and sometimes you don't.
Sometimes they're just indefinitely gone.
Right? I was sitting there waiting for like 2 years for 9 Muses to come back, and they kept being like, oh yeah, it's definitely happening at some point, definitely happening,
We're
and we're
working.
disbanded.
And they disbanded.
Or
Kristen.
FX, they're like, yeah, we're definitely
FX.
coming back at some point, and then disbanded.
And
not even
FX weren't
officially.
even officially disbanded.
They're just
Everybody
all
left
off
the
the
label, so SM can't do nothing.
There can't be a comeback then if we're not on the label.
And there was nothing about, hey, we'll just come back to the label and do it. That doesn't make any sense,
Right?
right? Could they? Maybe.
And I think that's the thing. None of
knows?
these groups have an obligation to the fans
Absolutely
to
not.
stay together as a group. But I think the obligation to the fans is to be clear about what is
Do
going
I move on or do I not?
Are we meant to say, okay, this part of your career has ended, we're moving into a new phase, or are we still pretending, oh yeah, it's all the same, you know?
Right.
Because as FX fans, for example, we went through that for like 4 years, where we sat here waiting desperately for anything to happen with the
Breadcrumbs
group.
of them saying, yeah, we're just waiting on a song. We still love each other. We see each other. Nothing.
And it was nothing.
Even went through the loss of Suli during that time. And nothing! They just showed up for the funeral and nothing.
And then they just had that last Sometime they showed up for, only 3 of them.
Nope. Yeah.
And then that was it.
And that was our goodbye.
basically the end.
And that wasn't
And they
a
wouldn't
clear
even
goodbye.
say goodbye at it. And that's just obviously not just on the artists, it's also on the labels, because a lot of the labels
Absolutely. I'm looking at the artist.
encourage
I'm sorry,
a lack of
I'm looking at the
transparency.
label. Yeah.
So, you know, that's kind of the whole situation is overall, the problem with a lot of these current disbandment situations is a lack of transparency. If they had just said
From the
that
label
our
with
plan
the
as-
artist as well as to us.
Yes,
Because let's
exactly.
use To Anyone as an example. They didn't know they were disbanding until they were disbanding.
That is true.
To the point where Minji left the label, found out they were releasing a song to say goodbye, and she was like, how convenient is that? What? She had this whole thing, a post basically being disappointed at everybody for not including her and for not even having the courtesy to call her.
Right? And I think that speaks to one of the major problems about this, that is a major problem in general in K-pop at this point, is that the relationship between, oh my god, this is a group that you love, so you're a part of a family here, this is a community,
Right.
we're all together just through love and happiness and making each other feel
Music.
good, and the music and positivity, and then the fact that this is a business that people are taking as a business. The label thinks of this as a business, and they sell us this image of, oh my gosh, you're part of this happy family, you have such a connection with the artist, and then they can just cut it off at whatever point they think is convenient.
Yep.
And frankly, they sell that to the artists as well. That's one of the things that, to me, is most shocking, but not shocking, but just like outrageous in this GOT7 situation, is that JYPE always has such a kind relationship he tries to show with his artists, being like, trying to pretend like he's part of their family or have this sort of close relationship
Right,
with
he's
them.
their sweet uncle who's got their back.
Exactly. And yet, time and time again, if you actually
Stabs.
watch the clips, you can see that he doesn't, and then you see everybody leaving at the end of their careers, because clearly he's not actually that nice to them. I'd rather you not lie to my face like that than pretend that we're best friends.
It's the emotional manipulation for me.
Right? It's just... And I just think overall we need more transparency and less emotional manipulation. Obviously, Kpop has already gotten a lot more transparent because it used to be
slave
full
contracts,
smoke and mirrors.
10 years, you're being sued, don't leave.
Exactly.
Or
It
you're
used to
kicked
be
out, non-insane shit. Yeah.
Insane in that way, but now we've gotten more transparency, but it's almost in a weird middle ground that almost makes it worse because now you're just like
giving false hope
I
for years.
feel like they're telling me things, but then you realize at a certain point you're like, there's so much I don't
nothing.
know.
It explains nothing.
No.
All we know for sure is we don't hate each other. Okay. Well, I'm happy for that, for the bonds, but what Kristen didn't hate each other and yet they disbanded. After years of, mistreatment, basement dwelling, and confusion.
Right, and I think part of
bullying
this seems to stem from the idea that apparently fans will be satisfied with the idea that these people in the group don't hate each other. But for me, that's nice,
that
but that's
only
not
half the question.
what I cared about necessarily. I liked their relationships as a group, but I like seeing their relationships as a group. I like seeing what they did as musical artists together, because part of what you're buying into in this sort of fantasy they're selling you is the product as well. They're selling you a product through this fantasy of the group, of your relationship with the group.
And each other.
But part of that involves the actual product. You can't just have the group sitting there and then...
It's not even the group sitting... You just can't have the name sitting there with no one showing up. Yeah, the name sitting there
and then a one Instagram post every 2 years being like, we love each other still.
Anniversary.
Right? Like, cool. I'm glad you acknowledge that happened.
That's real cute, but that's good for a like and a move on, not a freaking stand-em.
Right? People have day-to-day lives, If your music is bringing me the happiness in my life, and then it's suddenly gone, that is a change. And again, that is fine. But yeah, if you're done, then you gotta end it and let us know. Otherwise, we sit there in false hope. And that just builds resentment, frankly, on my part at least.
Right?
I'm more bitter, but it's just like you're ruining the taste of the group.
Well, not to be dramatic, but like, how would you feel if you had a relative that was on their deathbed, and then all the doctors did was like, they're not dead. Well, are they getting better? But they're not dead. Okay, but are they no, but you can't see them. You can't talk to them. But they're not dead. Can you get on with the grieving process if you don't even know if they're gone or not?
It's true.
And then, does the grieving process not naturally begin? Because even though they're not gone, there's an absence, and therefore you have to figure out your life without them in it? Is that not crueler than the death itself? Because you have the hope, and I'll see it. It breaks my heart, frankly. I'll see it on the internet all the time. I'll see it on social media all the time, where people are like, believe in them, trust them. They said they're GOT7 forever. They're 7 forever. So we must believe. What does that mean? Yes, they're 7 forever because they are immortalized as GOT7 in all their amazing work. The memories, the videos, the pictures, they're immortalized. They are forever 7.
Right.
Not to be even further morbid, but Shiny will forever be 5. Doesn't change the fact that Jonghyun's gone. It's different.
That is the truth.
So why lie and be like, oh, we'll believe in them? It's not that I don't believe in you. I care. That's why that's how I'm showing I believe in you. But I can't believe what's not happening.
Right. I'd say the worst situation for this, in my eyes, has been what's been happening with EXO and Lay for years now. It has been years since he has done anything actually with the group. I'm not counting the damn appearance in the Tempo video. That's nothing.
The cameo of the Chinese Tempo.
But other than that, and even that is like, they're like, oh, this is what you were waiting for, him to be back with the group. I'm like, that's nothing. He's not in the promotions. He's not on the album. He's not doing the group activities. These groups come together, they have activities, and that is what we care about. We care about the individuals, we care about their, them as people, we care about their individual relationships with each other, but ultimately what we are standing is a musical group. So if the musical group does not exist, or this person is not with the musical group, then why do I have to, for years, just be like, oh, OT9, I love him, and I love him with the group, and I'd love him to be with the group.
Absolutely.
But if he's not with the group, I'm still going to love the group, because the group is still a group that I love, and I still love the rest of them. Or I'm going to walk away from the group because they're not the same. The people that are like, I don't like them as 8, have every right. It's not the same. But they should say that it's not the same, instead of keeping our hope, flickering at every moment, and so then every comeback when he's not there, everybody's like, oh, Lay's not there, I don't care. And it's like, it'd be just so much easier if we could just say who is here, and then we can determine what we're going to care or not. Because as the EXO fandom, yes, we've dealt with a lot of trauma in terms of people coming and going, but I'd rather know than not know. So we can actually do the grieving process and then actually have them have their own career, rather than trying to figure out the intricacies of when Lay could be there, when he could not be there, and everything.
And the fact that everybody as a fandom has to jump to their own conclusions, closely studying the political climate of China to figure out if it's just like literally outside of his will, that he can't physically be back, and that it's outside of EXO's will because the rest of them are Korean ethnically, and therefore, you know, it was complex. They couldn't just come over to China and do everything that they used to do.
Right, and that comes back to the overall issue. There's no clarity from the label, there's no clarity from the artists. And sure, some of this maybe is difficult to give clarity on, but don't we deserve that as people who are spending money and time and energy on all of these things, the people who give you a career, a life? Don't we at least deserve that? If we deserve all these other things that you're giving us that nobody asked for, why can't we get the one thing we're actually asking for?
It's so frustrating to explain. You know how stupid that sounds? Well, yeah, they're in it, but they're not. They haven't been in 4 years. They haven't been on any of these albums. The last album was in 2016 that he was in. We're in 2021. And he's Chinese. And there's no conscription, which means he could get on a plane. Prior to COVID, he could easily get on a plane. And even within COVID, quarantining for 2 weeks don't mean no thing. He could have shown up.
Right, Jackson did it.
Jackson's done it.
GOT7, so.
Speaking of GOT7, Jackson's done it. It's not impossible.
Yeah, so
it's just weird.
I think overall, as fans, obviously there's a lot of opinions and thoughts and feelings about that situation, but overall, the conclusion for me is that it is frustrating. And
that these things unchecked will continue. It doesn't matter. Like it seems really premature now because GOT7 just announced all of this change, so we're not expecting them to have everything done right away. That's not what we're saying. But it bears mentioning that we have been in this limbo for years with other artists we love.
Yeah.
And so it has never ended up well.
Concerned, and we hope for the best for them. We want them to do whatever they want to be doing, but we hope that they will have some clarity with us in terms of group activities, if they're happening, if they're not happening, and if they are going to happen. Give us a general time frame. Do you mean something this year?
Are you trying for something this year? Are you trying for something yearly? Are you trying for just an album? Or are you trying for a tour? When eventually we can as a world tour safely again? All these things I want to know, because there's a big difference between a touring GOT7 and just an album GOT7.
Right, and there's a big difference between we release 2 albums a year and then do a world tour GOT7 and whatever this new GOT7 is going to be. Doesn't mean we're going to dislike what's coming, but we want to know what it is, and it's going to be different. So we have to mourn the group that we used to have and embrace the new group that we have. It could even be better. I think a lot of Chinois' post leaving SM stuff is some of their best stuff. So,
and ultimately, I know that if they are able to come together as a group again and be with each other, it'll be better because they will be happier.
Yes.
Because GOT7 is such a personality group that it can't not be electric. Even, we haven't watched it, but some friends of mine watched their performance at the Golden Disc, and they said it was so jubilant because you could tell they were free. You could tell they were happy and being honest with themselves. And that's what we want.
Yes, we want them to be happy at the end of the day.
Tell me what to spend my money on. I will gladly continue.
Right? At the end of the day, we definitely care about the happiness, health, and everything of the artist, but just as fans, we also want some clarity, you know?
For our happiness and health and well-being,
Exactly, because we put time into this, and even though they're the ones doing all of the hard work, we also are doing hard work as fans.
And we showed up. Yeah, I'm telling you, the Nancy Drews out here in these fandoms trying to figure stuff out because there is very little clarity. What about those man hours? I mean, they deserve a statement.
Exactly. Anything else to say?
No, I think that about sums it up.
Yeah, so we are very excited for whenever GOT7 will come back. We're sad that this era of them has come to an end, but happy for them that they no longer have to be under JYPE's hateful eye.
Hateful, sadistic, selfish, egotistical bitch-assery.
Well, alright, okay.
Making JB do all your shit, then change it all because you don't like the sound of it. Girl, fix your ears!
Right? But yeah, on that note, if you enjoyed this video and you want to hear more talking videos from us, leave us your suggestions down below in the comments. Make sure to like this video if you enjoyed it, and overall give us your thoughts in the comments on this topic as well.
And what's going on, right?
Subscribe to our channel for more videos.
Yes.
We have a bunch of GOT7 reactions if you want to go see them. Our live reaction to Thursday, Crash and Burn, and You Call My Name is especially great, I think.
mental breakdowns everywhere.
Very chaotic, but if you enjoy that kind of thing,
I'll
that
put
is
in
our
a card.
content. Yes.
That's much happier, less intense. Us. I mean, we're still intense, but in a different kind of intense.
Yeah. So we'll see you in our next video. Bye.
Happy K-popping. Happy K-pop industry surviving.
Yes.
Seriously. Love you, GOT7.